Hi, my name is Simon, GM8NYB. I've been doing some restoration on a CR100. So this is continuing on from what I've done already. Last time I removed the HF components. I think I said IF components, but actually the HF components. So on a tag board, and also printed to the tag board's bolted to a plate. So I took the whole plate off, complete with the tag board. Here it is. As you can see, it had two resistors at this side, the two 10k resistors at 5 watts, and they're all burnt. It's also unfortunately burnt the track, the board underneath, and it's hard to see, but you can see through it. You can see it's sort of warped it a little. Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is going to clear this of all the components, clean up the board and the tags, and then repopulate it with new components. I'm using metal film resistors, modern ones, 1/4 watt. As you see on this, some of these resistors have been changed. I mean, I think these are E24 series. This one here, so some have been changed in the past, and some of the original resistors they're still on the board. These have a colour code where the base of the thing is one colour. You've got a dot at one end and the multiplier in the middle of the stripe. Right, so that's what I'm going to do. A quick repair of this. This capacitor here, by the way, is not on a lot of pictures. You don't see this capacitor on it. Now, and also this resistor here, which is 510k ohms. Now, I wonder why that was on there. This is part of the cathode bias or the cathode line on one of the first valves. This was earthed to this tag here, which is on a coax. Now, this coax, as it turned out to be, on my model I've got is a model Mach 7, and that's the one with the RI S on the radar interference suppression, and it had something to do with that. I need to look into it further. So that was this is additional components for that modification, which I have a circuit diagram of it, and I need to work out how that interfaces in. Anyway, so I'll start quick. I won't bore everybody with taking every component off, but I'll unsolder a few there and you'll see, and then I'll show you how I clean the boards up. Quite a funny way of doing it. I've done the other ones, the other two boards you saw earlier, and I actually used an old toothbrush. Make sure it's an old toothbrush and toothpaste. And it's amazing how shiny the contacts come up with using toothpaste. Anyway, I'll show you that. First of all, I'll start unsoldering some of these components here. Now I need to get the soldering iron fairly hot for this, because the tags do take a lot of the heat away. And I've got it running at 400, so we'll see. Might even be easier just to cut the components off, but like this one here I took off earlier, it's just looped on, so it's not actually through the hole there. Plus the rubber burns, so there's quite a few fumes come off here. Let's see how this goes. That's the component off. Bit of a burning rubber smell. The actual thing is through it, so I'm going to clean all these up and then get the rest of these components off. And so on there. So I'll just pause while I do the rest. Right, that's most of the components off. Still a few straggly bits of cable to remove. Just to be warned that these were made when the solder was basically lead and tin, probably 60-40. So it's quite well ventilated here, but it's not like the modern. So there's a lot of fumes coming off. Try not to breathe them in. it might be beneficial to have a fan, or you can get extractors, but for this speed I get these off, it shouldn't be too much of a problem. These wires are plastic insulated, and obviously an additional or replacement to the rubber ones, and I've wrapped them round, but you can get them off. But I was just a little note there that this is all lead tin solder. That's that one off there, and there's one here. A bit to get the heat in. There we go. And then I've got some little bits and pieces here. I'm not sure you can see. Straggly bits of wire. Right. A solder socket. Although this isn't the best one. Try and remove some of the excess solder here. Clean it up. So I'll go with that next. I'm going to go through and clean up these tags and remove all the cold solder off them. So, well, that's fairly clean with the soldering iron and the solder sucker. Not going to get all the solder off, not completely. And also this solder sucker, which was a cheap one from eBay, falling apart. And I've noticed I can't open that one. Anyway, I do have a better one somewhere. That is. And to continue now, I'm going to use solder braid. Right, this desoldering wire, it's called, sometimes desoldering braid. It's impregnated with a flux, and when you heat it up, it's also like a braid. A capillary action removes sucks the solder into it, basically. As you can see here, hopefully. Takes a while. Also gets a bit hot on the left hand. As you can see, I'm not sure if you can. Taking the solder there. So it's just a bit of a laborious job, but to keep doing this till we've cleaned up all the pins. Drop the end off it there. I'm just doing the worst ones just now. Quite a lot came off that one. There's another one here. There, just pause it again. Well, that's what I intend doing. I'll clean up the rest of them. Now, it just looks like just cut them off without any reference, but what I have been doing, I've got a little notebook here. Let's put it over there for now. What I've been doing from the beginning. This was the little board. Now you can see it there. I just drew out the diagram of it and the position of the resistors and the values underneath. It's one of the little boards. I've also made a little note of all the resistor values and the R1, etc. and the value. The funny reference there is my own reference, but easy finding it on the diagram. Now, here's a diagram I made roughly. Most modern drawings and up-to-date drawings will have a grid reference for components, but the CR100 didn't come with one. So here's a photocopy quick rough photocopy of the circuit. You see on the bottom, I've got it in red. I've marked it in centimetres. And I've marked it 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up. And then on that side, I've got letters. May not be so easy to see. So to find the resistor, not R6, 28k, 28k. So around 28, position K, and find the resistor on the circuit diagram. So it's easier to find it. Right, going back to this last tag strip, I've done the same with the capacitors as well. There's quite a lot of capacitors. There's the other small board. There's this mode switch I did earlier. I mean, there's just a rough drawings at the moment. But what I will do, I'll probably CAD them all up properly. And that's this board here. So I get a rough idea where the resistors were, or where they should be, the new ones. The black line at the bottom is the wiring, the links. And the red markings are the resistor numbers. And underneath I put the values. So there we go. So I can build it up using 1/4 watt metal film resistors. Using metal film resistors instead of carbon may, I'm not sure, might reduce some of the thermal news on the circuit. So there we go. Anyway, I can continue cleaning up the rest of this, and I'll come back once I've got the board all clean and off, or solder cleaned, and then I'll clean up the board itself. Not sure what to do about that, whether it's worth cutting this board, finding a new piece, or replace the whole lot. We'll see. Well, that's it, relatively clean. I did change the bit of the soldering iron to a more broader pointed chisel point. It's a lot easier to use the solder wick, the broader thing. So it's relatively clean. I've done not too bad. I may do it again later to finish it off, but now I'll take most of the nuts off. I can take these nuts off and we'll see what's underneath. Underneath the pack slim board. Alright, that's the board free. Not a bit dirty really. Grime basically. So that'll clean up. Not too badly warped really. Might be able to repair that. Now underneath, on the base of this, we have a small back insulation there, which is also has nuts and bolts on it to keep it in place. So I'll take those off as well. Using a small pair of pliers here to loosen them. They're not too tight. Keep it. These are bolts, not bolts. So there's one. Keeping all these out, obviously, keep them safe. After this, I need to tidy up the bench a bit. You know, show you in a minute. All the old bits of solder here. Now it's all lead solder. I need to find out how to dispose of that properly. But that was all we had in the old days, was lead solder, lead tin. That was the main solder we used. Now it's all tin now, isn't it? So that's that one off. And that one. I'll leave the capacitor on here for now. Right, so that's the screws. A few screws there, keep them safe. So, the nuts. traffic there. Right, there's a metal plate. I'll take that off later. This I can give a clean up, maybe wire brush it. This is the back plate. So the early sort of plastic really. That will go on. That obviously goes on there. So I'll go and clean this up. Show a quick video later of how I clean it.